everyone, I'm Daniela and I'm going to show you how to make scarpaccia. The word scarpaccia comes from the Italian word for old shoe, because this kind of looks like old shoe leather once it's been baked. But I promise you, it doesn't taste like it. It is so delicious, it's super easy, and it's the best way to use up all of your summer zucchini. So let's get started. Start by removing the bottom end of your zucchinis. You'll need about 3 zucchinis, 800 to 900 grams. I'm going to be using a mandolin to slice my zucchini and my onion, so I want to keep the entire onion intact. Cut off the top of the onion, then slice halfway down the middle. Make sure that you're removing any papery skin from the outer part of the onion. It won't cook down nicely and you'll get a stringy, chewy bit in your scarpaccia. I'm using the straight blade of my mandolin, no special attachments, and I've got it set to 4 millimeters thick. That's about a 1/16 of an inch. You can do this by hand with a knife, but a mandolin makes it so much quicker. Just be careful to mind your fingers. If you want to get all the way to the end of your zucchini, make sure to use your guard that comes with your mandolin or a Kevlar glove. I'm going to readjust the mandolin setting to 2 millimeters for my onion. Break up all of the little pieces of onion so that there are no large chunks in your scarpaccia. Add the onions to your bowl with your zucchini. Then you want to salt your zucchini and onions liberally, using about a tablespoon of salt. Get in there with your hands and make sure the salt is touching every piece. Once it's well mixed, add a plate on top of your zucchini and set something on top of the plate to weigh it down. You'll want to let this rest at room temperature for 2 hours. Preheat your oven to 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Fahrenheit. In batches, pick up your zucchini and wring it out as best as you can, making sure all of the water ends up in the larger bowl. It's okay to give them a really good squeeze. The excess water from the zucchini is going to make up some of our batter, so we're not losing any of that zucchini flavor. To the zucchini water, add 90 grams, 3/4 cups of flour. Whoops. Then add in 40 grams, 1/3 a cup of chickpea flour. If you haven't got chickpea flour, you can substitute it for cornmeal, a really fine grain, the kind you'd use to make polenta. Start to stir this together. You want the batter to be fairly loose, so if the zucchini hasn't given enough water, you might just need to add a little bit more in. Keep adding a little bit of water at a time, continuously stirring. You're looking for a consistency that's a little bit thinner than a regular pancake batter, but not as thin as crepe batter. To the batter, add half a cup, 50 grams of parmigiano reggiano cheese. Then grate in 1 clove of garlic. Give that a stir and then pour in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Season the batter with some pepper. A few cracks of freshly ground black pepper will do. A great way to bulk up this recipe is to add in thinly sliced potatoes. You'll want to add these in when you're mixing the zucchini with the batter. Add your zucchini and onion back to the batter mix. Make sure to stir it so that every piece of zucchini has been coated in the batter. I've lined a 20 by 30 centimeter baking sheet that's 8 inches by 12 inches with a sheet of parchment paper. You can do this in a larger pan if that's what you have, just don't spread the batter as far to the edges. Pour your mixture onto the parchment paper and then spread it out, pressing down so that it's nice and flat. Add another little drizzle of olive oil on the top, and I like to add a little bit more freshly grated parmigiano reggiano, and into the oven. This will need to bake for 30 to 35 minutes or until it's beautifully golden on the top. You'll want to let it cool slightly before removing it from the pan and peeling away the parchment paper. Cut into slices and you're ready to enjoy. Super simplified version of the viral pasta alla Nerano. This dish was made famous when Stanley Tucci touted it as his favorite pasta he's ever had. The original process takes a really long time, frying your zucchini in batches and letting it cool completely before we make it into a sauce. Who has time for that? So let me show you a quicker version you can make any night of the week. Start by trimming off the bottoms of each of your zucchini. I'm using roughly 4 small to medium zucchini, about 650 to 700 grams. It works out to roughly 1 zucchini per person. I'm using a mandolin to slice my zucchini into rounds. I've got it on the number 2 setting, which works out to about 1/2 centimeter or 0.2 inches. This will make sure they cook down really nicely in the sauce. If you don't have a mandolin, you can slice it with a knife. Set your zucchini aside. Set your pan to medium-high heat. Add about 1/4 cup, 60 milliliters of olive oil. Pop in 1 clove of peeled garlic that has been slightly crushed so that the oils start to come out of it. I like to let the garlic get a little bit golden. We're not leaving it in there, it just adds flavor to the oil. Just before I pull it out of the oil, I give the garlic a little squeeze to impart that tiny bit more flavor. Remove and discard your garlic. Add your zucchini to the oil. It might seem like a lot right now, but it really does cook down. Add in a pinch of salt to start drawing the water out of the zucchini, and then give it a good stir so that there's a little bit of oil on each piece. You're not looking to fry the zucchini so much. You're more so trying to steam it. Pop the lid on to trap in that heat so that the zucchini cooks down. While that's happening, we'll prepare the rest of our ingredients. Wash 10 to 12 large leaves of basil. Then stack them and roll them into a cigar-like shape and cut them into thin ribbons. Make sure to use a sharp knife. You don't want to bruise the basil, and you want to retain as much of the basil oil as you can. The thin ribbons will make sure there's a bit of basil in every bite. Because this recipe originates from the Amalfi Coast, we have to include a little bit of lemon. It doesn't have a super lemony flavor in the dish, but it really just brightens everything and brings it all together. Slice the cheek off of a lemon. You only need about a teaspoon or two of lemon juice for this recipe. When you slice the cheek, you're less likely to get seeds. I still got one, but it's less likely. Every few minutes, give your zucchini a stir to make sure they're all getting evenly heated. You can see a lot of the water has started coming out of these zucchini and they're cooking down. We really want to break these down until they're almost pulp-like, so keep stirring and keep cooking. You can give your zucchini a helping hand at this stage once they're soft by smushing them with the back of your spoon. The whole process should take around 10 to 15 minutes. Once your zucchini is at this stage, pretty mushy, a little bit of integrity left to them, add your pasta to boiling salted water. A great little trick for getting your pasta from pot to table even quicker is using boiling water from your kettle. It will take less time for it to heat up and boil in the pot if you've already boiled it. The viral recipe uses spaghetti, but use whatever pasta you like. The great thing about this dish is it's just simple, beautiful ingredients that are respected and brought together to make something incredible. I have penne rigate, so that's what I'm using. Go ahead and add in the basil you sliced earlier. Now's a great time to add any extra flavorings like chili flakes if you'd like, and then squeeze in that 1 or 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. If your zucchini are starting to look a little bit dry, you can slowly start adding some of that pasta water to the mix. We're going to add about a cup in total, so add it slowly so that it has time to evaporate. My pasta is only a few minutes away from being done, so I'm adding in 1 tablespoon, 15 grams of butter, and just under 100 grams, around 1 cup or 3 to 3.5 ounces of parmigiano reggiano. I've held back a little bit of the cheese to add once the pasta is added in later. You can see how creamy it's looking already. It's important to give it a taste and make sure it's seasoned appropriately. I'm adding a little pinch of salt. If your sauce is looking particularly thick, keep adding in a little bit more pasta water. Some of the water will transfer over as you move the pasta across, but we don't want the sauce to be too gummy. While this recipe was made famous by Stanley Tucci, this zucchini pasta is pretty common in every Italian household. When it's summer and there's zucchini, you make pasta. It's what we do. Now that the pasta is cooked, transfer it directly into the pot. I'm using a slotted spider-like spoon. You can use tongs, whatever you prefer to move your pasta. But don't drain the water. You might need a little bit more to thin it out. Give that a really good stir and check the consistency of your sauce. If it needs more water, add it now. Now add in the remainder of your cheese. You would never think this sauce is mainly made up of zucchini. Look how creamy and delicious it looks. Plate yourself up a hearty serving. You can garnish with a little bit more basil and a nice drizzle of olive oil, or add more cheese if you want. This is one of my favorite summer dishes, and I know you're gonna love it. Chocolate chip walnut zucchini bread in the air fryer. Start by chopping 60 grams, half a cup of walnuts. You want to make sure that they're very finely chopped so that they evenly distribute throughout the bread. Let's set those aside and grate our zucchini. I like to remove the bottom end of the zucchini and leave the stem end intact. That makes for a perfect handle when you're grating it. You'll need about 500 grams of zucchini, around 2 cups once it's been grated. Now pop your grated zucchini into a large bowl. If you don't want little green flecks of zucchini skin in your bread, you can peel it before grating. We want to keep this really easy, and I hate dishes, so just crack 3 eggs straight into the bowl with the zucchini. Start whisking up the eggs until they get a little bit foamy. Don't worry about incorporating all of the zucchini at this stage. To the eggs, add 1 cup 236 milliliters of a neutral oil. Add in 4 grams 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And now you can mix all of the zucchini into the wet ingredients. Add in 2 cups 400 grams of sugar and give that a good mix. Directly on top of your wet mix, add 3.5 cups 420 grams of flour. To the flour, add 3 grams half a teaspoon of salt, 6 grams 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 3 grams half a teaspoon of baking soda, and 4 grams 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm going to very carefully mix the dry ingredients on top before mixing it into the wet ingredients. This mimics mixing them in a separate bowl. Finally, mix your wet and dry ingredients together. Once you have no more dry bits of flour and it's all incorporated together, it's time to add in our mix-ins. Add in the walnuts we chopped earlier and 90 grams half a cup of chocolate chips. I'm using mini chocolate chips because I like how they distribute themselves a little bit more evenly throughout the loaf. The same reason why we chop the walnuts so finely. But you can use regular chocolate chips or leave them out if you don't want them. Give that a few stirs so that all of the mix-ins are completely combined in the batter. It should look like this. I'm spreading this recipe out between 2 1-pound loaf tins, but you can just as easily do it in a 2-pound loaf tin if your air fryer will fit it. My loaf pans are non-stick, but if yours aren't, make sure to butter and flour them before adding in your batter. Divide your mixture into your loaf tins. You might have a little bit left over, and be sure to clean up the edges of your tins if you've made a little bit of a mess like I have. You want to make sure to use the bake setting on your air fryer and set it to 170 degrees Celsius or 340 degrees Fahrenheit. Pop your loaf into your air fryer. Now all you have to do is wait. One 1-pound loaf will cook for about 45 minutes or until the internal temperature reads 88 degrees Celsius or 190 degrees Fahrenheit, or until a toothpick comes out clean. For a 2-pound loaf, you'll want to cook this at the same temperature for an hour and 10 minutes. While the loaf is still slightly warm, I like to slide a knife around the edge of my pan. This just helps to loosen the loaf so that when I tip it out, it comes out easily. Turn your loaf out of your tin. This is perfect eaten still warm, at room temperature, or even cold from the fridge. This stuffed zucchini recipe is made in Italian households across the country all summer long. If, like me, you have loads of zucchini in your garden, this is the perfect recipe for you. Let me show you how to make it with 3 different fillings. Pop your zucchini into a pot of boiling water. If they're small like mine, let them cook for about 15 minutes, but if they're bigger, let them cook for about 20. This won't cook the zucchini the whole way through, it just helps to soften it so that it's easier to scoop out the centers. Pull out your zucchini and let them cool in a colander. I'm leaving the top stem on my zucchini. You don't have to, you can cut it off if you'd like, but I love the way it keeps the integrity of the vegetable once it's baked. Slice each zucchini lengthwise down the middle. Once they're sliced, gently scoop out the centers of your zucchini with a spoon. I like to start with a shallow layer and then work a little bit deeper. That way I don't break through the skin of the zucchini. And make sure to reserve that filling. Once hollowed out, place your zucchini on a lined baking tray. You want to break down the filling of that zucchini, so you can do it with your hands and just squelch it between your fists, or you can chop it up more finely. Preheat your oven to 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You could also do this in a pizza oven if you're lucky enough to have one. No matter which filling you choose, these will need to cook for 20 to 25 minutes until they're a beautiful brown on top. We'll be using 8 grams, 2 teaspoons of parsley for each version of our filling, so I'm just going to chop up the whole lot right now. You can chop this as fine as you like. Add your parsley to the zucchini. This is my cheesy breadcrumb filling. To the zucchini and parsley, add 1 egg, 2.5 tablespoons, about 30 grams of fine breadcrumbs, and you can adjust this by adding more if you feel the filling is a little too wet at the end. Add a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, and about 25 grams, 4.5 tablespoons of freshly grated parmigiano reggiano. We're adding in 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of salt, and 1 tablespoon, 15 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil. Finally, add in about a cup or so, 50 grams of a soft cheese. I'm using a sweet provolone, but you can also use mozzarella. I chop it into fine cubes, but you can also just grate it in. And then with your hands or a fork, mix it all together. Once it's all mixed together, you want it to be a consistency that still holds together but slouches just a little bit. Start filling your hollowed out zucchini with your filling mix. I like to make an even layer so that it just comes to the top of the cut part of the zucchini, and then top it up with any additional filling that I have at the end. We want to try and keep them as even as possible. Those are ready for the oven.
Now let's make the tuna filling.
I'm using a tuna packed in olive oil, so I'm going to use about 1 tablespoon, 15 milliliters of the oil that the tuna is packed in and drain off the rest. Then I'm going to add 150 grams, 3/4 cups of the tuna to the mix. To the bowl, add in 1 egg and 1 teaspoon of salt. Because the tuna has a little bit more liquid to it, we're going to need more of a binder. Add in 25 grams, about 1/4 cup of finely grated parmigiano reggiano. And then to really bind it together, we need 5 tablespoons, 60 grams of fine breadcrumbs. Mix that all together and make sure the consistency holds together nicely in your hand.
And if you like these fillings so far, why not hit the like button down below so other people can find this recipe too?
Just like the cheese version, fill your hollowed out zucchini shells. Those are ready for the oven.
And if you're looking for a bit more protein, you've got to try this sausage one.
To the zucchini mix, add in 180 grams, about 2 links of pork sausages. Just squeeze them out of their casing. Add in 4 grams, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 15 milliliters, 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Grate in your 25 grams, 1/4 cup of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. Add in 1 egg and 30 grams, 2.5 tablespoons of fine breadcrumbs. If your mixture feels a little bit wet, add in another 1/2 tablespoon of breadcrumbs until it's the consistency you'd like. Stuff your hollowed out zucchini with your sausage mix. Those are ready for the oven. They're beautifully golden brown, that cheese is bubbling up and melty on the inside, and they smell delicious. It might seem like an unusual filling, but tuna is actually really common in Italy for this type of dish. The sausage filling smells amazing. It's the perfect combination with the zucchini.
You can eat these hot straight from the oven, but I prefer them cold after they've been refrigerated for a few hours. It's so refreshing on a hot summer evening. If you're looking for another classic Italian side dish, you have to try my mom's peas and mushrooms. Be sure to hit the subscribe button because I come out with a new Italian recipe every week. See you next time.